comments if that's okay. All right, everyone, welcome to the November meeting of City Island Rising. My name is John Doyle. I'm a member of the board, and I appreciate you all coming out here today. The nice thing about this meeting is it's going to be a little bit more intimate, even though we have some islands over here of different people, but much more of a conversational tone. That's not done intentionally, but there was so much going on today, I actually didn't get a chance to make the agenda that we usually work off of. But this will be good. We'll do a brief report. I'll also acknowledge some of the other board members who are here, and then we'll have a discussion style back and forth about issues that you care about. And if all goes well, it'll be a productive but short meeting, so it'll be good the whole way around. As we start, I just want to acknowledge we do have some of our board members here. So we have Beverly Jones, who's behind the iPad right there. Thank you, Beverly. We have Millie Perez right over here. How are you, Millie? And we have Kim Woodruff right over here. Thank you, Kim. So those are the folks we have from the board here today. I know that some board members may be joining us as this is in progress. Pretty much all of our board work, so they are coming from their jobs to here, and a lot of them do have child care obligations and things like that, so I appreciate their sacrifice, your sacrifice of making time to build community with us today. So, for starters, as you all know, there is a lot going on in the neighborhood. I will say the first thing I want to give everyone an update on, and just kudos to so many of the people in this room. Our clothing drive for the asylum seekers and the migrants was an overwhelming success. Mm-hmm. There were, I want to say, 50 bags, 60 bags.
More than 200 bags.
More than 200 bags that we went through.
According to David.
Yeah. And Millie, I gotta say, Millie, credit where it's due. Millie was there, Beverly was there. David Diaz spearheaded the effort, so when he watches this, kudos to you.
And Jake.
Jake was integral in it. Jake, his son.
Can I say something? I've been doing that separately and giving them, delivering them to the address here in City Island.
Good.
Because through my Santa Claus, I spent,
Well, thank you for what you're doing as well.
Weeks, and now I have another big bag that I'm going to deliver as soon as we get back.
And as we, first thank you for what you're doing as well. And I think it was just a very good contrast, as we all know, when they talk about opening the center, there were concerns. Obviously, some of them are shared publicly, some are shared privately. Sometimes brought out, and folks are vulnerable in that state, as we all know. They get angry, and I think the collection drives we all did were a very, very good example of kind of showing the common humanity we all share, and trying to make sure that everybody is treated humanely and in a welcoming way, because we all, unless you're Native American, we all came here through some shape, way, matter, or form, so we've all been immigrants at one time or another. But I want to thank everybody who was involved in our clothing drive effort. I know it's been covered in the media, but frequently I still get stopped by people saying they had seen something on it, and how nice that was. So I want to thank everybody who's involved in that. So from good news to some concerning news, obviously you've probably all seen on television, there was and in some major publications, some establishments out here have been getting hate-filled cartoons sent to them, and they're really racist and anti-Semitic, and obviously there's no place for that in this community. And I know Seafood Kings, which is disclosed, they are one of the recipients of some of this hate-filled stuff. They held a press conference. Our Congresswoman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, was there. Also, I think Beverly and David of our team who were present. I was out of the 48 states, so I was not there. But I want to thank them for being there and sending a powerful message that this will not be tolerated. As a result of all that, I actually got a call today, which I will just disclose, from the Commission on Human Rights. They want to do an outreach effort on City Island Tuesday afternoon, late Tuesday afternoon. So if you're watching online or you're here and you'd like to be a part of that effort, basically just giving resources to all the businesses to let them know how to file a complaint. Before the incident that went public, another establishment had received a complaint, and I didn't feel the need to, it's not my story to tell, it wasn't targeted towards me, so I just passed it along to the police. So this has actually been going on for a little while longer than has been commonly known. I had spoken to someone high up in the administration about a week ago, and my understanding is there's a very, very active investigation underway. While City Island restaurants are victims, it's not believed that the person sending this is from here. Obviously, the envelopes have a New Jersey postmark on many of them, but beyond that, there are businesses in other boroughs that have received very, very similar things.
Does everybody also know about the follow-up hate mail that Seafood Kings received?
Mm-hmm.
So in retaliation for, it's stated that in retaliation for their going to the press, that they would be further targeted. That letter, as I understand it, invoked the name of Adolf Hitler, included a swastika drawing on it, and said that the Nazi Party is rising and we are everywhere. You know, it's really terrifying, really chilling stuff that they are being targeted with. A representative from American Jewish Committee was here from their offices in Queens. She was here at the rally as well. So, you know, and one of the pleas that Seafood Kings made was, you know, that right now what they need is community support, and for everybody in the community to go share their love, to break bread. And so, you know, I think that you know, David and I were thinking about possibly holding one of our next community meetings there, but you know, it's what they want now is support and the love of the community. I think they felt that very much on Saturday, and to the extent that folks can continue to show them that love and support, they really need it. So them and Archie's and Caliente's are the three that have been identified publicly.
And Frida's actually.
And Little
Frida
Frida's. Yeah, the owner of Little Frida's was at the rally and was having a conversation with the owner of Seafood Kings about how they can come together and support each other.
Frida's and Seafood King and what?
Caliente's and Archie's Tap and Table.
There are still others though.
And I've heard that there are others, like I said, those are ones that have been sort of publicly identified.
Yeah, and Daryl, who's the owner of Seafood Kings, is a wonderfully nice person. And the best way, really, that all of us, obviously, if you know something, call the police. I mean, I'm obviously saying that, go right to the police. But if another way you can be is, as Beverly said, just patronize these stores. Because the best way we show commonality, and the best way we all just stick together, hopefully this too shall pass. But definitely is very concerning. And again, want to thank Beverly and David for holding it down with AOC at the rally. So we were represented, and that people understood that this is not, I think the Congresswoman said it best, this is not City Island, this will never be City Island, and I think that was just perfect and the way we want to be remembered. So we were supposed to have a, this was a last minute thing that I threw in there. We were going to have, so everyone remembers 2 or 3 months ago, we got a very large grant, an operational grant to do a lot of the work that we've been doing for a while, but to do it kind of ramp up. So there are 3 things we promised in our grant. One is a website. We are working on the website. It will have all of our initiatives on it. It will have our biographies on it. We are all working to get it done. Louisa from our team is kind of headlining that. But we've hired a web designer. We're going to be taking some nice photos of the island. So that is making slow and steady progress. We do have a beta of the website. If people want to see it, I can show it after. But things are moving along there. The second thing we decided to do was we had a, what is the right way to say this? We are looking to do a resiliency study with an academic institution. I actually just had a conversation with one specific institution a little over a week and a half ago, and I don't want to name drop because if it doesn't work out, everybody gets disappointed, but very strong enthusiasm level, so we will probably bring someone on so we can start talking about different ways to make the island more resilient, and that's going to tie into a lot of the federal legislation that passed, as well as the green bond measure, which we supported, that passed overwhelmingly. pass overwhelming the City Island. So you're going to see billions and billions of dollars come back to this state and this city to do resiliency efforts, and we are going to have, between our work with New York Sea Grant, between our work with New Yorker News, between our work with other groups, we are going to have very well documented evidence about how we need resiliency measures here on the island. So we are working on that. But the third thing we decided to do was a mural. We decided that a mural would be a great way of kind of showcasing what we're for, what the City Island can be. And we've kind of committed, we have a City Island-based artist who has done actually our banner, which sits in my apartment, which I'll start bringing to these meetings. He's going to do a mural for us. We've secured a space. It's going to be right next to 239 Play on the boards there. And the mural is going to center on action on climate change. Specifically, we were taking some of the city graphics and city photos to show what City Island will look at in 2050 if we do nothing. And we're going to use that as a call to action. And this particular artist has done a lot of other work on the island, so we feel very confident. He's committed. He grew up here. So once it's all ready to go, we will tell you, but the mural is taking place. So if there are things you think might fit into climate change that are uniquely City Island, and you can either, I don't know, I know I'm kind of putting everybody on the spot, so if everyone wants to give it a few minutes of thought, then we can just kind of go around the room, but we're looking to incorporate some of those things into a final design. And it is, again, moving forward. Our hope is that before it gets too cold, I recognize I'm saying that on a night like tonight where everyone's feeling pretty cold in here right now, we are able to get, kind of the design and everything out of the way. I spoke to the artist yesterday. This really started in earnest in, we got the grant over the summer, and these conversations started in September, have really progressed through October, and now in November we're looking to start. Worst case scenario, it starts early next year, but we are in a good place, is I guess what I would say. Beyond those things, there is work that is always continuing in the community. No big, I know sometimes I do a big announcement of something going on here, but I don't have any of those, but I would say that we have, we've been having some good conversations to start our
It was good they had the e-scooter report. I'm sorry if I missed it. It was discussed at all.
we do have our OEM. We've had some good conversations with OEM. We are going to be starting we're going to be starting a kind of a co-ad with them. It's called Strengthening Communities. There's going to be a grant process. Beverly and I have had a one-on-one call with them, and we are also on some other calls, and we're going to have some specific trainings to City Island. The only barrier we need to really cross here is we've got to get 30 to 40 people who would be involved in City Island in the case of an emergency, but they are actually going to bring the training to us, which is something we've asked for since the inception of this group. So it shows if you're a really, really big pest and you just keep doing things, eventually some people just give in because they don't want to deal with you anymore. And in my case, that happens somewhat frequently. They really can't stand me. But regardless, we're going to get this great thing, hopefully for the community. So if people are interested in being a part of this, based on the conversation, the emails I think we had this week.
Early December?
Early December. So we are really moving forward. We're going to be doing trainings. We've given a few locations for trainings. But, I feel very hopeful. Beverly, do you have anything you'd like to add that I maybe forgot?
Nope, I think it'll be great to, really start thinking about, proactively about planning, to create a trained and united front in the event of disaster. I think certainly Islanders do tend to come together in times of crisis, and this will give us some common language and some common training to be able to help our neighbors and one another. So, looking forward to it.
And we're going to engage the Boy Scouts and some of the other groups to get this on the go. And we should have more information. We're hoping, because I know he was coming out here to scout sites in last week. So hopefully soon. Some very proactive conversations we've been having are with the Waterfront Alliance. They're supporting us in and some of the ferry stuff they're doing. They're also, you know, we've had some preliminary conversations with respect to the Gateway property, which everyone knows is the area by the bridge, and they are very interested in that as well. I know we're going to actually have the representatives from the Gateway group at, I think, our next meeting. They were trying to make it work for this meeting. It was short notice for everybody. We just couldn't make it work, but we are hopeful that we will have them at a future meeting to give us an update on what they're doing in different ways we can support getting rid of that ugly eyesore by the bridge there with the spools of the wire and the trucks and the Tina Forte sign and all that other stuff right there, and getting rid of that.
Better than the Let's Go Brandon sign, which was
That's true. That sign was seriously blew over in the wind, and no one knows anything about that.
Nope.
And then finally, as everyone here knows, we have been working through the Congresswoman's office also to try to get the utility lines underground within Holiday Park. We finally got an email back from Department of Energy, Federal Department of Energy, where they were asking for very particular specified questions. So there's a local business here who has kind of experience in this line of work. We brought them into the discussion for kind of cost estimates, things along that nature. But I think the fact that a federal agency is reaching out to us to engage us as to how this would work is very, very good. And then on top of that, we engaged in discussions with the mayor's office right around the time the Migrant Welcome Center was proposed about some of the other problems we have here. The bad roadways, which we've been working with Senator Biagi's office to try to address, the lights being out, obviously the flooding and everything else. And we received some initial signs that some of the lights were being fixed within Holiday Park about a week ago. It's still a slow process. We are on them to try to get an estimate of when that will start. I mean, we've been playing kind of whack-a-mole with these lights for the better part of 7 years. But our hope is that now that the mayor's office is involved in kind of pushing the agency, some good will come of that. So those are some of the more proactive discussions we've been having. Our composting is continuing on Wednesdays, 5 to 7, 239 play. You can come and drop off your compost. We're trying to start something where if we can get a couple dozen people to do $5 every week on the composting, it's a drop-off compost, we have the Treasury to try to supplement that and then work together to keep that program going long term. But I encourage people, if anyone needs the composting stuff sent to them, email us at City on Rising, speak to me, Beverly, or Kim after the meeting. We can give you all that stuff. We're going to be doing some earned media on that, so we want to get the word out. If people want to come from other neighborhoods to drop off their compost, obviously that'll be seemingly a long ride in a car with that smell, but they can do it, and we welcome them, and we are just trying to make this work.
You know what? If you're dropping off every week, it really doesn't have a chance to get super smelly. One of Wyatt's weekly chores is to take the compost down the street and deal with the representative who takes in the compost. So
Right.
If your earned media wants an adorable 10-year-old who's
Sounds
committed
good.
to the composting project as part of his allowance,
I love that, and let's definitely make that happen. That's a nice touch there.
Is there any way to change it to $5 whenever you drop off compost, but that you don't have to do it every week?
Yeah,
that's
I
what
mean,
that's
you
what
can-
we do.
whatever
Okay,
people can do.
Yeah, make that clear.
Yeah, and we're also going to be purchasing. If you sign up for the compost problem, and as you know, they have the sign-in sheet when you go. If you sign up for the compost program, we as a board actually agreed we're going to be buying little compost bins for everybody who's a part of the program with our logo on it, compost program. So you're going to get a cool tchotchke for being a part of this program. So sign up, get involved with it. Very important. Yes.
How many people have we had at the most?
Right now, from what I understand, the steady population that's a part of it is about 15.
Okay.
Is that 15 every week? Sometimes it's, probably in a month it's probably somewhere in the 20 range, but do they come every week? No. But they, they're involved, and what we're trying to do now is streamline that process for them. Kim and I have been working to try to make sure their payments can, there's an easier way to do that, but right now people will just be given $5 to the guy or whatever. I don't even think we've been really asked that much, but we're gonna try to move that forward.
I think you just answered my question.
Yeah.
Who receives the $5?
So if you pay online, you can do that. We have a PayPal, cityislandrising@gmail.com. You can do it online. If you want to do it in person, just give $5 to the representative who's there.
Okay,
Either way is fine.
that's fine, thank you.
Okay?
The reason I asked is
Mhm.
that I'm one of the people, I use my compost, I need it.
Okay, look, if you need it, that's great. I don't
But
know.
I'm wondering if that's, there, it seems like there are a lot of people that have yards and gardens
Yeah.
and that's why there are some neighborhoods where composting would be great.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked about 50 is a lot more than I thought it would be.
Yeah, you know what it is that people, remember, if you grab and go real quickly or you drop off real quickly and you get back in your car, it's the foot traffic, we don't always see it. So, but the representatives who are there the whole time.
Right.
Yeah, they do make it very easy.
Yeah, you drop it off right there, and we're gonna make it easier because everyone's gonna get that bin.
Right.
So now, you might have to put some baking soda in that bin because you don't want you to smoke out, smell out your car or anything. But it is a good step in the right direction, and we are happy to offer that service, and we are looking to continue that service. So very, very important. Does anyone have any questions about anything that we've spoken about here today yet, or want to bring up something in new business that we have not yet addressed?
School across the street?
Oh, yes, the UPK. Where we are with the UPK is that we've been speaking to Bronx House. We've also been dealing with the landlord. The assembly member is going to need to get more involved in that, and I think he will. We need to work something out with, basically Bronx House needs to get in there to make a string of alterations to the property. And the way the DOE works is, you sign this lease and then you open, 2 or 3 months later. But the alterations on that property, as you all know, that property hasn't been in use since I was in grade school, which is over 20 years ago. So that property is basically sat there pretty much unused. It was used for a brief while during the bridge reconstruction. But what we're trying to do now is we're trying to work through the Department of Education and try to get them to give the applicant, who is Bronx House, a little bit more leverage so that they can execute the contract a little early and use that time to modernize the building. So very much hoping for an update on that by the next meeting, but trust me, that is something that's been very much at the forefront of everything else we have going on. You had a second, you said two, did you say two things?
No.
Or? Okay.
Thank you.
No worries, people can ask multiple questions, fine. Nancy?
Just one thing.
Yeah.
This is Orchard Beach,
Mm-hmm.
the maintenance building.
Yes.
In this time of climate change,
Yeah.
I know if you take down a mature tree, you plant others,
Mhm.
but it takes decades and decades for a
Yeah.
tree to grow. If the entire Orchard Beach area is a flood zone,
Mm-hmm.
what is this building going to maintain if the whole thing floods? Because what they're going to do is take down trees to put in pipelines and a new road.
Mm-hmm.
This originated after Sandy in 2012, and I think it's today.
This is what we emailed back and forth on, and we
Yes,
sent something
I
to.
mean, I do feed cats,
Yeah.
and I would never put one out.
Yeah.
They're there. Today, while I was feeding one here,
Mm-hmm.
up there on the hill, this beautiful, huge stag just walked by.
Yeah.
Beautiful antlers. That area, that whole wooded area by the garbage dump is full of deer, all kinds of wildlife. This is a huge disruption to a beautiful Orchard Beach. That whole area is just a beautiful
Oh, I
treasure
agree.
in New York City, and I think that is a horrendous idea. And
Okay.
evidently, nobody knew about it, not the Bronx Borough Press, no one. I mean, it's just been undercover, and now it's imminent, going to start in February.
All right, let's have an offline on this. Very important. And we'll try to arrange some sort of meeting. We do have people here from the community board, so maybe we can all work together and put our heads together and try to see if there's some sort of compromise can be reached. Obviously, we all love the wildlife. maybe not the deer when they run on the roadways, but otherwise we do all like the wildlife here, and we want to make it work as best as possible. So I will definitely mark this as something for follow-up for the next meeting. Does anyone else have any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, compliments, holiday numbers? No? Okay. Bob Beater is here from the Precinct Council. He's also on the Community Board. I know tonight was actually Rodman's neck meeting as well. Unfortunately, I can only be at one place at one time, so I came here with you guys. Did anything happen there?
They'll reschedule it because they didn't show up.
Oh, well,
So I won't be able to be there.
I'm sorry your time was wasted,
That's
but I
okay.
am happy that I will be there the next time, so it'll be good.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, so that is, but yes, we are moving forward on that. Obviously, the legislation has been introduced, which Bob had worked on, I had worked on, both Assembly members Benedetto and Fernandez. As people know, now Assemblywoman Fernandez is going to become Senator Fernandez, which is good for us in this particular instance, no matter what your politics are, because we are not a political group, because now we'll have a senator and assembly member on the bill. So now it could theoretically pass both houses and become part of law. So that is good for everyone involved. Beyond those things, there are things that are going on that we're still obviously working on. We got to get an update on trying to do the banking development district, which I know is something you care about, Phil, because I know we exchanged some emails. We are waiting for a final design for how they're going to deal with cell phone service within Pelham Bay Park, because they are still looking to build an antenna near the Amtrak tracks. And we actually worked with some of our federal partners to expedite those conversations, because Amtrak can take almost as long to get somewhere as they do. Let you get back to you via email on their design. Kim, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Is it possible to get the administrator from Pelham Bay Park to come to one of our meetings?
Yes.
Because I feel like we're not engaging with the park as much as, I mean, maybe you are, I'm not sure, but
We actually had
there's a
her.
lot of issues related to the park.
Mhm.
It's like a huge part of our lives, and I know when I go to the park, my big concern is just garbage.
Mhm,
And I go to all corners of the park,
mhm,
and it's very well used. But one of the side effects of that is that it's very ridden with garbage, and it just doesn't seem like they have the resources to keep it clean.
yeah, I mean, that has been first part of the question. Can we ask Marianne Anderson to come here? Absolutely. She was here at our October meeting in 2019, but we will ask her. It's been 3 years, so I hope to come back. So we can ask again. It's been 3 years, so it's perfectly
Also,
fine.
the Bronx Parks Commissioner.
Yeah.
Is usually pretty receptive too.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Okay.
good.
And unfortunately, as Bob knows, because he's been involved in these things for a long time, the Parks Department, when there are budget cuts, is one of the first items to get cut. That's why if you go down near I-95, if you're on Shore Road to I-95, you remember for a very long time there were those big bushes like between the traffic medians, because no one is, the maintenance is consistently a problem. I will say, and I do keep an eye out, during the summer months, the maintenance gets a lot better, but during the fall, because it needs to basically, but during the fall and winter, they do not have the same
And I don't
crews.
think they go. I mean, I went to the small island that you can get to by
Yeah.
crossing on the little boards.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And there were
Yeah.
literally bags of garbage. Like, I don't
Okay.
understand even how bags of garbage get there, but several bags of garbage. And I would argue
Mhm.
that that island and those views and those scenery is the most beautiful scenery in all of New York
It's
City.
spectacular.
It is so beautiful.
Oh yeah.
And then you're looking down and you're literally surrounded by garbage. It's so sad. I don't know what we need to do to give this park the attention it deserves.
Mhm.
I know
Mhm.
that the same problems are not being experienced at other parks to the extent that Pelham Bay Park is. And it's so
I think
so
we need,
underloved, it's just
we need, if you carry in a picnic lunch to Hunter, for example, I think we need, instead of having garbage cans, you carry out your trash.
right.
I did a canoe trip in the Boundary Waters in Minnesota in national
Mhm.
wilderness. we couldn't leave
Right,
anything.
they'll have the signs.
That's
And what
Jersey law.
happens is people put it in the trash can, the animals take it out, cleanup parties come in and put it in trash bags, and then it takes ages for those trash bags to get cleaned up. But there should be simply a regulation. You want to carry in a six-pack, you carry out the cans, you carry out all your baggage. And that's not hard.
Right.
It-
I don't know how, I mean, that is what we were thinking.
weighs less.
Every time my husband and I go to the park, we're just sitting there having like a meeting about having to fix
Well,
this
I
problem.
would suggest you also invite the Friends of Pelham.
I was just gonna think,
Yeah,
Yoko
I was
Martel,
going
to
who runs the
Okay.
Friends Group.
There is a volunteer organization that does an awful lot of cleanup, a lot of, removal of invasive plants and other things.
Yeah,
And they're awesome, but they always need more volunteers.
yeah. And this would be a good
If you're
opportunity.
really concerned about the park, I think it's a great place
Well-
to pitch in.
Maybe we'll invite them both. We'll invite them
I
both
would
at the same
suggest
time.
so.
And what Bob's touching on is, so there's a Friends of Pelham Bay Park group for a long time, because what we're basically touching on is inequities within the park system. For a long time, there's been an effort, eventually, possibly, to turn the Friends group into a, what was it, like a conservancy, like Central Park has, like Van Cortlandt Park is getting. But to do that, you need that groundswell of support. You need, you need benefactors. You need money coming in. You need private money coming in, public
Yeah.
money coming in.
Although there are pros and cons to it. Center
Yes.
Park Conservancy is what's called a mayorally appointed independent nonprofit.
Mm-hmm. Like
Which
HHC.
I had a long conversation once with a friend on the conflicts board about how those things can all be true at the same time. So there is some level of a diversity of control
Yeah.
that Central Park Conservancy deals with. In that certain, as I understand it, certain of their board has to go through the mayoral office on appointments.
Is the Friends of Pelham Bay Park registered as a nonprofit?
Yes.
I don't. We would have to.
Yes,
ask
they
them.
have a fundraiser every year in the
Yes.
Bartow Pell.
John, maybe what we can also do. I love the idea of having a panel where we've got, Marianne.
Yeah.
And the Bronx Parks Commissioner and Friends of Pelham Bay Park, and maybe we can also plan in the spring to have a volunteer day with Friends of Pelham Bay Park and get some of our membership out into helping with.
I mean, I would say that their outreach and marketing maybe is lacking because I'm not seeing much from them in
Maybe we can help.
I think it's a small but mighty group, kind of like
Yeah,
us,
I mean, I appreciate-
kind of like us in a sense.
Yeah, I appreciate what they do,
Yeah.
but I think the park needs more. It just needs more love than it's
Yeah.
getting.
Steve,
They do have, I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. No.
I ride my bike there in the mornings.
Yes.
And I've witnessed numerous times employees who are supposed to be picking up the garbage and cleaning, standing around, smoking pot for over an hour, which leads me to believe that there's no supervision of these people, and perhaps the supervision, they probably might do the same exact thing as the employees. But I think that there's a lot of time wasted because of it, and I think that's part of the problem also.
And I think maybe they're not going out into the far reaches of the park. They're kind of focusing on the areas of the park that are
Most
like
people.
centrally located.
Yeah. Probably gonna get the most complaints because the most eyes
I
are.
went to that tiny little island
Yeah.
that you can only get to when the tide is low, and there were several people hanging out there fishing, doing this and doing that. So there's definitely people using this park. Nobody can
Yeah.
say that it's underutilized. It's just under cared for.
I think you appreciate. Did you have something you wanted to?
Yes, every year, the Friends of Pelham Bay Park have a, and
Yep.
I'm in charge of publicizing that, picking this up now, but we might be able to tie it, because people take pictures of every inch of that park. I'm always amazed.
Yeah. Well, Ron
There
Turner's
might
down
be.
there almost every day, taking photos
Oh,
of different
yeah.
people there. That's always like the
Exactly.
nice segment, the people,
Yeah.
have you seen that in the morning? He does the people he meets in Orchard Beach and
Yeah,
Conway Park.
a blast.
I'm scared though, because my dad, brings my dog down there, and sometimes lets him off the leash. I don't want to catch any rule breaking going on there, but teach their own. But no.
It's just that there might
But
be
I
a
like-
way to
I like the
tie in
panel idea.
some of the-
I like, and we will have her here because that was a very good suggestion too.
I mean, if there's things we can do to help,
Yeah.
we want to do it. It's
Right.
just when I go to the park, I'm like so happy, and then I'm so sad at the
Well,
same time.
I think Bob touched on. I think it's got to be us getting more involved in the park itself. And one of the other things we frankly have to do is eventually the roadway jurisdiction, which is actually a legislative act that has to go through the state. We're gonna have to get involved in that because these roadways are right now under the jurisdiction of the Parks Department. That's why they look the way they do. This would never be tolerated anywhere else in the city. We have to find a way to get this resolved in a way that keeps the roadways safe, the bike lanes safe for our friends who bike here, and everything else. But we do need to get these, and we need to make sure there's proper irrigation. Obviously, the Shore Road project, which the community board's been very involved in for a number of years, that eventually needs to get funded because that needs to happen. But it's not, and I appreciate what all the activists on Shore Road, particularly the Breen brothers, do because they put a shining light on a problem that is real. The issue I have is the context that the whole park has those problems. So we really, this is the largest park in the city of New York.
Right.
And the funding, in my opinion, based on what I see, because as someone who looks through some of these budgets, is not always reflective of that reality. And sometimes, as we all know, because we're a small little area in the Bronx, we're out of sight, we're out of mind, we're on the outskirts of the city. And as a result, because it's kind of like the same reason, frankly, to tie back to some of the cleanup things that Kim mentioned. If problems are dealt with, the more eyeballs that are on it. And the outskirts of the city is not where most eyeballs in a city of 8.5 million people are. I think if you go to some of the other boroughs, you ask them the last time they've been to the Bronx, you're in for a history lesson. But we don't, we've got to sometimes do a better job of telling our own story. And we will do the panel discussion. I know we're also considering doing another panel that I actually was approached on doing. I think we might do it with Gary Exobank on kind of all the climate change efforts in the Bronx with a focus on the east side and what we need to do here. So 2 panels to work on for next year. We won't do them on the same day, but we will do them. And now I said it on camera, so there's a record of me saying it. Did anyone else have anything else before we yes, go ahead.
Just in terms of as we're thinking about and planning for 2023, one of our most successful community meetings was when Senator Biaggi was new, and we invited her to come and speak and heard a bit about her priorities. Now that Natalia has been elected as our state senator, now it's not electioneering for us to build a connection with her, and I would say it would be great to see if she can't attend one of our community meetings in the spring and bring some of these issues and other issues that we've been working on to her attention, and really invite her to have her senatorial launch in the community
Absolutely.
alongside us.
Absolutely. I totally agree. There have been some preliminary discussions already on something like that, and I think definitely want to do that. And also, we might do something, maybe next month to thank Senator Biaggi because she was always very good to all of us.
Yeah.
And, even though she might not be the senator, I know she very much cares for this community, and we will try to find a way to highlight that. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Yes, Dan?
You mentioned wiring in the park.
Mhm.
Have you given any thought to wiring on the island?
So I agree with that wholeheartedly. Actually, Michael Shanley lives on Fordham Street. I'm not going to give out his address on Facebook. Don't worry. This has been been his issue for like 20-something years, and there had been someone else who had come to my attention on the west side of the Bronx who was actually a political candidate, but she'd been trained by Al Gore. She's like in the first environmental class that Al Gore did. And one of her big things was, because the only two areas that really have the utility lines above ground, or three areas that I'm aware of, are Riverdale, part of Morris Park for some reason, which I've never got a good explanation on, but I know Morris Park has that issue because I speak to the bid director, and here. So we met up and we had a very long conversation about this about a year ago, and she said to me at the time, you know, I was reading through the bipartisan infrastructure bill that passed actually a year ago yesterday. She said, you know, there's got to be money in there for something to put the utility lines underground, and sure enough, there was. So we flagged it with the Congresswoman's office. They put in some feelers, and that's kind of where we are right now. We're in such an early preliminary stage, so yes, I focused on the park in my remarks, but if we could get it the whole island, I would love that. Just keep in mind, it would of course have to be done in phases, and you know, putting utility lines underground, particularly in the population centers, is a mass disruption because you know of everything else. So I'm very interested in engaging and seeing how far they want to do it. David Diaz, who's on our board, and I had a long conversation with Con Edison about a year and a half ago during COVID about this. We wrote to the head of their, we wrote to the head person, which got everybody under the head person very upset with us that we didn't reach out to them beforehand. But they were saying how expensive this would be, yada, 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 this, that, and the other. So David always wanted to do research, found their corporate profit listing for that year and recited that on the phone. So it's not the most amicable meeting, but you know, they've said that if we could, if there'd been some sort of money offset from a larger entity, they would consider it. So as a result of that, that's why we have engaged with the federal partners to try to bridge that gap. And again, as we said earlier in the conversation, the fact that the Department of Energy has been asking us, you know, what the scope of this would be, what the scope of work would be, what the cost would be, you know, is very, very, I don't think they're doing that for every other one. So it's very, very encouraging. And again, we have, again, I'm not qualified to give that technical resource. I didn't go to college for engineering. I don't think that's going to shock anybody. But we have brought in folks on the island with that level of specificity and people actually who watch these meetings. So again, another person who watched the meeting, heard us talk about it, reached out to us, and then we brought them in with DOE, and we're having a good conversation on that. So the hope is, you know, this can continue, right?
There's another issue that's kind of a sub-issue. On all the poles,
Yeah.
the electricity is at the top, and then you have telephone, computer, television, and those wires are all over the place. They seem to have no restrictions as to how they put them up. They leave coils of wires on poles. It's really a messy situation. And wires run into the houses throughout the island. And the company that puts it in has no obligation, as far as I can determine, to take them down. But you change. So I have 9 wires into our house, all from the same pole. 8 of them are dead, but I don't know which are the 8.
Okay, let's have a. You might find out that the Patriot Act was used against you, Dan. So let's be careful there. But no, we'll maybe we can definitely engage to try to figure that out. So another interesting thing. I'm probably one of the few people who know that. So as you brought up, the Verizon, the Con Edison, the Cablevision wires. There's another wire in there. They are all on the poles, and they're in a different specified order. The last person who's on the pole is required to remove the pole, believe it or not. So that always leads to problems on the island, because what will happen is there'll be a mad dash for 2 or 3 of them to get off, and then that's the one person, and then you get, well, is that really our wire? I don't know. I got to call a supervisor. And, you know, it's been an issue within the park, too, because if you go by the horse stable, the utility lines get very low. If I was about a foot taller and had a better jump shot, I could actually pull, and a death wish too. I could pull on those wires and reach them almost no problem. And that's a huge problem. And as we have video evidence or photographic evidence before, right over by Rodman's Neck Circle, there have been issues over the years where something has gotten into the utility wires and caused sparks. I've sent it along to the Congresswoman's office. So we have a pretty good case of potential fire hazards right next to thousands of acres in the city's best populated park. So I think, in a sense, the case not tragically, but not great, but the case has almost been made for us in a sense that this needs to happen. So let's use, as we were talking about earlier, it's the infrastructure bill, it's the Inflation Reduction Act also is basically something to do with this. The green bond initiatives, the climate bills and the funding will hopefully go there. There's going to be a lot of funding flowing through the state and the city, particularly to coastal communities, to address a lot of these problems. And what we have been trying to do, the board, myself, New York Sea Grant, OEM, is document these things. So when you see me and I'm taking the photos of the nuisance flooding, now you know, like, again, it's to document these things on a certain date, certain time. This area floods, that area floods, this area doesn't have proper irrigation, and where do we go from there? So we are building that case so some of these things can get addressed, so they're not problems that are as long-standing as Rodman's Neck.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, on that terrific note, anything online?
Nope.
Everybody's good?
Everybody's good.
Thank you all. Appreciate you. Godspeed. Get home safe. We will meet again. The meeting date, I know we switched our times. We usually don't meet on Wednesdays. We meet on the second Thursdays, but it just didn't work out last month. Next month, our meeting is scheduled to be December 8th. It's a Thursday. We will either have it at Seafood Kings or we will have it at probably Clipper, but stay tuned for further updates. Again, the guest is going to be the people with the Gateway Project. That's the plan right now, and we may have somebody, one of the mural artists, come to solicit it. Did anyone have anything they wanted to add to the mural that they would want in consideration?
My son's.
If it comes to you, you can private message, email, text it over. We will include that in the mural design, but feeling good on that too. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.